Hello, and welcome to this third video on solving and graphing linear equalities with two variables. Okay, so in the last video, we talked about greater than and less than, and we talked about the dashed line. Okay, so we followed these steps. So below, I've basically copied these steps into this video. And so we learned that the first step is to convert the inequality into slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. Well, for the cases of learning just the basic parent function, y equals x, or y is greater than x or less than x, we don't really have to do that because it's already given to us in slope-intercept form. But later, as the problems get more complicated, we'll need to remember this step. Okay, then we talked about determining if the line for the inequality contains the solutions. Basically, is it dashed or solid? Okay, so last time we talked about dashed lines, and now we're going to talk about when to use a solid line. All right, so we basically have y is greater than or equal to x in number 3. Okay, well, what does that mean? That means y can be greater than x and y can also equal x. Okay, so or it could equal x. Okay, so y could be greater than x or y could equal x. Okay, so we're not talking about compound inequalities. It's just what the greater than or equal sign means. Okay, so remember we learned that when we had a greater than or equal to sign, let's say if I had x is greater than or equal to a, then if I was going to graph it, basically it was going to be included. Okay, a was going to be included, and then it was going to go to the right. Okay, well, basically a solid line means the same thing. We learned that a dashed line means our solution is not included. So for greater than or equal to, basically this symbol here, we use a solid line. Okay, well, what does that mean? That means our line is basically solid as opposed to a dashed line. So I'm going to graph this inequality, y is greater than or equal to x. Well, remember my slope is 1 and my y-intercept b is 0. Okay, so I'm going to start at b, 0, and then I'm going to go up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, use my slope to find all the points on that line. Okay, or at least most of them, and maybe I can skip a few. All right, as long as I'm following the line. All right, so in this case, I don't have to graph all the points because I know that this is going to be a solid line. So my line is going to pass through all of those points, and it's going to be continuous, because what this means is that my solutions or points on the line are included in my solutions. Okay, so I'll write that points on this line are included in my solutions. Okay, so that means if I have the point 0, 0, the point 1, 1, the point 6, 6, those are all included in my solutions. Well, what other points are included in my solutions? Well, it's greater than or equal to, and we learned that when something is greater than or equal to, we shade above. Okay, so we call that the ceiling. So to shade above, greater than or equal to, it's all the points above the line. Okay, so all the points above the line, including the line. So I can draw my graph up to the line. So I'm going to shade this whole region. All right, and this region would continue on forever, except it's limited by the fact that our paper is limited. So this region continues on just like our line continues on in both directions, right? It continues on this way and it continues on this way forever and ever and ever. So basically, in the world of numbers, my line doesn't really just stop at the end of the axis where the axis is drawn. It would continue on if the axis went bigger. Okay, so just remember that. All right, so that's what an inequality looks like when it's greater than, when y is greater than or equal to x. Okay, so now let's go back and let's look at what happens when y is less than or equal to x. So we've looked at all 3 steps. We learned how to determine if the line is a solid line or dashed line. And then we also learned how to shade the appropriate region, right? If it's greater than or equal to, we shade above. We shade above the line. Okay? And then if it's less than or equal to, we shade below. We shade below the line. Okay? And we'll talk about some special cases when we get back to class. However, this is kind of what you need to remember for now. All right, so let's look at y is less than or equal to. Well, less than or equal to means that my solution can be less than or can be equal to x, or it can be less than x. Okay, so I need to draw the line y equals x. And remember that, let's say I had x is less than or equal to a. Well, on a number line, that meant that a was included. So if this is a, and a went to the left according to the less than symbol. Okay, well, a similar thing happens here. We're actually graphing a line. So again, m, my slope is 1 over 1, and b in this case is 0. It doesn't have to always be 0. We'll get different lines later, but for this case it is. Okay, so I'm going to plot some points that are constantly on this line. All right, so maybe I'll skip some just to kind of save some time. Okay, but I need enough to show the formation of my line, and this also is a solid line. Okay, so again, a solid line means that the solutions on the line are included. Okay, or the points on the line are included. All right, so then where else do I shade? Well, if I'm going to shade less than or equal to, then less than means that I should shade below. Okay, so I'm going to shade below the line. So basically what that means is all the points on the line and under the line below the ground, if the line is the horizon, right, those points are included in my solution. Okay, so I'm going to shade all of these points. So that's what my solution should look like. Okay, I hope this video has helped. And I hope that as a result, you at least have the basics learned for how to graph inequalities. Okay, we'll practice with some more complicated problems in class, and then you'll also have some for homework. But if you feel like you want to go on and continue through the notes, you can go ahead and try to graph some of these, but we'll go over more of these when you guys get back to class. I hope this video has been helpful, and thank you, and stay tuned for future videos to come.